Hello and welcome to the Spiritual Solopreneur Podcast. If this content resonates, please like and subscribe. Today, my guest is James Kawainui. Kawainui. James is a Kahu, native Hawaiian elder, healer, teacher, author, and speaker from a 20-generation Kahuna lineage. For 26 years, he has helped people identify exactly where and how they are out of alignment and find their way back to Pono, right relationship with themselves, their lives, and the divine. His upcoming book, What My Ancestors Knew, Ho'oponopono, A Hawaiian Way of Living, is coming soon. Welcome, James. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, and aloha.
Aloha to you. I hope I didn't botch too many of those words.
You were great.
Oh,
That's perfect.
thank you so much. So you are a Kahuna, which is a native Hawaiian elder teacher. How did you come to be that?
Not by choice.
Okay.
I will say that. Um, it's not something that I knew about as I was growing up, and it was something that I came to later in life. And it was because of an experience that I had 26 years ago that put me on this track. And it was the first time that I heard my ancestors speak to me. Hawaiians call them your kupuna, which are your ancestors. And I heard them. It was a clairaudient message that came from them. I was in a low spot in my life. I thought I was doing the things I was supposed to do, following the American dream. I was a corporate executive in a multi-million dollar a year company, and I had departments and people that depended on me and big fat expense accounts and flew all over the place. And one Friday evening at home in this very down and I guess very open space, um, I literally felt a hand tap me in the back of the head, and I heard a voice that said, "It's time to go home." And I looked at my wife, who is my ex-wife now, and I said, "What are we doing here?" And she said, "I'm not sure." And I went into the kitchen. Landlines were still big back then, and I called my sister up and I said, "Who's living in the beach house?" And she said, "No one." And I said, "I think I'm coming home." And I walked into my boss's office the very next morning, who was the president of our division, and I said, "I quit. I can't do this anymore." And
Wow. That
I,
that
I
was
walked away.
that not scary?
It was as scary as anything, as scary as anything. And yet at the same time, the voice was so shocking and the message was so clear. And I knew that I couldn't keep doing what I was doing anymore because I knew that inside my soul was dying.
Yeah.
And I had no clue what was going to happen. I had this really like fantasy dream that at 42 years old I was going to take my retirement and I was going to retire, and that wasn't the case. There was a plan for me that I didn't know about, and it took me several years to find out. But in that, I went home. I stayed on for 2 more months. I waited for them to find a replacement for me. They never did. I found out later that they ended up having to take my job and split it among three different people to because that was the kind of person that
That
I was. I
that
was a
tells you something.
overachiever, right? Just give it to me, I'll do it. It doesn't matter. And that's kind of how I've been because I felt like that's what I needed to do to prove
Sure.
myself in the world.
That is pretty normal, I think. I think a lot of people feel that way.
I think that sometimes this story resonates with people because we all kind of go through that place where we overachieve or we think that we're not enough. So we have to continuously prove our worth. We're thinking that we're proving our worth to the people that are around us, but actually we're continuing to prove that worth to ourselves, really.
Exactly. Exactly. And just idea of pushing through constantly, it can make you physically sick.
Oh, I was in the worst shape of my life. When I took that job, I left something that had been a foundational piece for me in my life, and that was surfing. Because before I moved to the job, which was in Ohio, in the middle of
Yeah.
Ohio, we're in the middle of Ohio. Nothing against people from Ohio. But where I lived before that was about 20 minutes from the beach on the east coast of Florida, which is where I had lived for 20 years. So that my company had a division, two divisions, or plants that was there. And I lived there for a really long time. So I walked away from something that I had been doing most of my life, which was surfing. And I did not realize the level of how important that was inside of me until it wasn't there anymore.
Mm. And when you went to Hawaii, did you get it back? Could you?
Oh, absolutely. That was one of the reasons that drew me back. I mean, I wish I had a picture I could show you. If I had thought about it, I would have prompted it. But there was a picture of the place where I grew up, where I lived when I first moved back to Hawaii, and I call it a beach house, but it was a 20 by 20 shack with a tin roof and no windows.
Mm.
It was just screens all the way around. But the Pacific Ocean, which was my front porch, was about 75 feet away from my doorstep of my house.
Is this the beach house?
That was a beach house. Yeah. And,
Right.
and the beach house had no electricity and no running water. So
Nice.
I went from living this amazing life and, I didn't fly a lot, but there were times when I flew in a corporate jet and, I had expense accounts and I bought, this is 26, 27 years ago, but $400 bottles of wine and $1,000 dinners and things like that. And I thought that, that because I was taking care of clients
Sure.
and thought that was it. That was life.
Yeah. Checked all the boxes and then some.
Absolutely did. And so I went home, and for 4.5 years, I spent that time dumping all of that away and realizing that there was another plan for me. And that was when I started to hear my ancestors more and more and more start to talk about, who I was, what I was doing. And at the same time, my life was falling apart. I basically spent, but mostly gave away all the money that I had. And so it was really getting stripped down to there was nothing.
Wow.
And then the last 20, 22 years, I'm in this process of rebuilding.
Wow. That is a level of commitment, sir.
I don't know. I think it was a level of insanity more than anything else. But I did realize that there was something more to my life, and that it was put on me to actually take that journey. And I understand that now, that I have this responsibility to my lineage. I have my responsibility in some ways to my culture to continue this carry this base of knowledge.
Right.
And it's about how we live and how we treat each other and how we treat the world around us. You talked about Pono, and really that is the foundation for a lot of the things that I do, is because Pono is a really interesting word. Hawaiian words are real interesting anyway. But if you looked into a Hawaiian dictionary, there would be 20 meanings of the word Pono. And it's about righteousness. It's about integrity. It's about right action. It's about harmony inside of yourself. So it comes down to this place of how I live my life impacts everything that's around me, including myself. And so how can I live from a place of as much integrity and authenticity as I can? Not for everybody else, but for myself.
Mhm.
And then realizing the responsibility, like I said, of carrying this lineage and sharing it with people. So
That's beautiful. When I hear the word, ho'oponopono, I think of the forgiveness prayer. So does that fit into that definition? I guess integrity and so on.
it does and it doesn't, because that version of Ho'oponopono that most people recognize and understand, that people in our world, I would say, um, it's a very watered down version. It's a watered down version because what has been marketed as is a practice of forgiveness. And really the process of Ho'oponopono in its nature or in its form is really about resolving conflict.
Okay.
How do you resolve conflict? Not just not just the conflicts that are outside, but the conflicts that are inside. So for me, Ho'oponopono is in some ways a foundation for how to create deep, safe self-inquiry and how to get to know ourselves, and not just as human beings, but as souls on a deeper and deeper level. That's really what Ho'oponopono is about.
Gotcha. Now,
What,
when you,
and go ahead, I'm sorry.
oh, no, you go ahead because I want to go with something else.
I it and the way that it came about in our society was really a beautiful evolution based on, our culture and the society, Hawaiian society. Polynesian, when the Polynesian voyagers found Hawaii, they found paradise. It was this amazing group of islands in the middle of the Pacific Ocean that literally had everything that they needed to live in order to live and live an abundant life. Well, they realized after several generations or after time there that our world is actually finite, not infinite, and that the resources were finite. And so they slowly evolved into this way of realizing that they were stewards to the land and the ocean. And without that stewardship and without that understanding of the interconnectedness of all of that, they would not survive.
Right.
And Ho'oponopono came about because that meant that every person in the community was an integral part of the community. They were literally spokes inside of a hub and inside of a cog, that depended on each other for survival, for living, for abundance, to be. And when there was conflict inside of a tight society like that, inside of small communities, when two people were in conflict with each other, or there were families that were in conflict, or people that were in conflict with each other, initially that process would just affect them. But as that place of not being pono, of being out of alignment, started to grow, that would mean that sooner or later it was going to impact the community. And so Ho'oponopono became this natural way of how do we resolve this? Because unless we resolve this, everybody is affected. And so Ho'oponopono became this way of looking at conflict, being able to look at it in such a deep way that we were able to take responsibility, see what our part of it was, see how the things that we say to people may affect what happened and how they took it, and where do we find mutual respect and mutual balance inside of our relationships so that we can actually all thrive and move forward.
And
That is really what Ho'oponopono
that's really what it is. And we could use some more uh,
is.
on the mainland, so to speak.
Well,
Um,
yeah, it's so in depth because in I'm saying it forces, but it really gives people the opportunity to take a look at their lives and become really honest about where they are and what they're doing and what they're creating.
and the responsibility, because it does fan out, the old butterfly uh, story, that it affects everyone eventually. It ripples out. And that, I think that is the lesson that needs to be learned more than anything.
It's an interesting process because inside of that process, we're not only having to sit and take responsibility for where we are, there's a part of the process where you get to sit and listen to what other people are saying without interrupting them. So it really lends itself for deeper levels of communication
Right.
and listening. And I think those are two things that are really sorely missed inside of our daily interactions now.
Exactly. Now, you've moved back, you're trying to figure out what's going on, you're hearing your ancestors. So my first question there is, what do they sound like? Do they sound like you, or they have completely different voices?
You know, that whole idea, clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairsentience, it's what I learned, and what I teach people about connecting with their guides, or connecting with their team. I call it the team, your etheric team.
Yeah.
Um, what they learned was how to communicate with me. And for each person, it's individual. Sometimes it's a voice. I will hear voices. Sometimes it's just a thought form that pops in. Sometimes it's I'm sitting with someone, and all of a sudden I see a scene from a movie. And the scene from the movie has information about where they are in their lives. Or sometimes I hear lyrics from a song, you know. So it shows up in the way that it shows up, so that I could understand and listen to where they are. And I realize, after trial and error, many years of trial and error, is that what I came to understand is, in my mind, when I close my eyes, it looks like this, like there's a pyramid. I'm at the apex of a pyramid, and all my ancestors and all my guides are behind me, and whoever is there at the time for the person that I'm working with comes up and they whisper in my ear, or they kind of put a nudge inside of me, that says, ask them about why they hid in their closet when they were 6 years old. I have no clue about that. Or you spent a lot of time in the woods when you were young, didn't you? And things like that. And about pain or trauma or things that have happened for people. So I questioned it for a really, really long time. And then I just finally let go one day and said, because every time it happened, sometimes it would be like screaming in my head, it'd be just like a word or a thing. And I'm just going to go, oh, I just have to say this to you. And then they'll go, oh, yeah, this is this and this and this. And so we got to a point where I just went, okay, I should
This is actually happening.
actually happening. It is not James the man that's doing this. It's and we all have this connection that's interdimensional, this connection that transcends in some ways dimensions. And so when we are open to those places, then we start to get information like that. It's one of the things that I share and teach people as well. So
Right. And so what do most people come to you for help with? Is it for healing or emotional, physical?
my experience over the years that I've been doing this is that all pain is emotional. Whatever pain that you're holding in your body, physical, spiritual, whatever it is, there is some emotional component to it. And so we find out what the emotion is. We find out what the story is, because the body is an amazing thing. It stores all the memories of the things that we've encountered in our lives somewhere inside it. And so when we have deep trauma, the body stores that information. It's almost like it takes a snapshot, and then it becomes part of who we are. And then as we go through our lives, especially if that event happens over and over, like if there's prolonged trauma or prolonged abuse, the body learns to respond and react, and it learns to one is to anticipate that happening, and two, to go into very automatic responses or reactions when those things happen. And anything can trigger it. It could be a smell, a song on the radio,
Mm.
the way the wind, the light is shining through the window, the wind that kind of blows on the back of your neck, or whatever it is. There's some trigger. And then it's almost as if it's a series. It's almost like a domino, because it's when the one domino gets triggered, then all the other dominoes fall. And so then it just kind of goes through this process. And the key to that is recognizing, either before it happens or as it's happening, and be able to interrupt it. So some people come for physical pain. Some people come because of emotional pain. Some people come because they realize that they are in points in their life where they should be happy because they have all the things that they wanted, but they're not. So, when I work with business leaders, mostly, when I in this way, is they're looking for what's going to help them feel fulfilled in their lives, because there's usually something missing. All the money didn't create happiness. All the things didn't create happiness. They were momentary, and so It really depends.
Mhm.
The way I look at it is I'm here to help people recognize the best versions of themselves.
Right. So let me give you an example. So I hurt my back, and it's very embarrassing how I hurt my back. I played 2 games of 5-pin bowling, and I somehow hurt my back. Now, the result of that sometime later is sciatic nerve issues. So my question is, and I get that there's probably emotional reasons for it, but my question, I guess, is how does it work? Like, is that area vulnerable for me now because of some kind of trauma? And so that was the trigger, the bowling.
Injury is really interesting because what it does is a place where the injury happens, it will heal, and yet you're right, it becomes a vulnerable place that after over time, the body will look for the easiest exit point. And so it becomes the easiest exit point for stored energy is to go to that place and make that noise. And so part of that is realizing that the body is trying to say something's out of alignment here. Sciatica,
Literally.
something is out of alignment. Sciatica, what is that a nerve that's pinching? Where is that nerve pinching? Is it tightness of the muscle, on the physical level? And then there's another part where sciatica comes in and you look at that and go, where are the places in my life where I knew that I was to take this step, or there was this transition point and I was afraid to take that step. So I hesitated, or I am holding, and again, like you said, holding information or trauma from another part of my life. And it gets to a certain point where it builds up so much that it has to find an exit point, like I said. And so the exit point becomes a pain.
Right.
So it all depends on the person and it all depends on the situation, and I would say that if you wanted to do that, we wouldn't do that in this context.
No.
Only because there may be things that, we are not willing or wanting to share
Right.
in a white space. So part of the work that I do is really creating safe space for people to be able to dive deep and feel like they can do that. And not only is it safe, but they're supported as well.
That's awesome. That's good for everyone here to know.
Well,
Um,
without that safe space, we won't take that dive. Because there's going to be a worry. There's going to be a worry that I'm leaving myself vulnerable, and there's this whole big piece around vulnerability inside
sure.
of that, and our for a lot of people, I'm making generalizations, but for a lot of people, our past has been people using our weakness against us. So
Right.
why would I share my weaknesses with you? And for men especially, that's really, really challenging because we've been trained, the masculine side of us has been trained not to show any kind of emotion,
Right.
because emotion is vulnerability means the potential for being defeated. When two warriors are facing each other in battle, each is looking for advantage, and so we are looking for weak spots. And
Exactly.
it's not just, but this is, I'm talking about normal everyday human interaction.
Yeah. I mean, we feel like we're in conflict just about all the time. There's competition in business, for example. So you're always against somebody, it seems.
One of the things that I've come to realize, and this is through some teaching that I've come across in the last year or so that I'm really understanding, is that we have an obsession as human beings for suffering. And so how can we recognize as the places in our lives where we are constantly suffering? You know, in all reality, our minds are hardwired to always look at the worst thing that could happen to us. That is a genetic programming that's inside of us that says I have to be ready for everything, which means that I have to be ready and I have to plan for the worst thing that could happen to us. It's a genetic predisposition.
And that would be tough to overcome, wouldn't it?
But it's challenging to overcome. You're right. It can be tough to overcome until we have awareness that it's happening. As we are able to come into different levels of awareness and we are aware, well, because that really in a nutshell would come down to glass half empty, glass half full.
Right. It's perspective.
It's perspective. So can I realize that and be able to see my life and go, wait a minute, can I see the beauty and the gratitude inside of my life and not just all the things that are bad?
Yeah, and I think that's a practice, right?
Oh, absolutely. Practice. It's a practice. It's a commitment. It's recognizing how the unconscious pattern shows up to trigger that reaction and being able to catch it. And that's part of this. And it's a really interesting thing because from a standpoint of an indigenous healer, I look at all of this as energy. And yet, if you look at it from the standpoint of science, what we're talking about is neuroplasticity and changing mindsets, because that's really what we're talking about, right? We're talking about automated responses that come from different parts of our brain and being able to pull those out of those automated responses and that automated system and bring it back into awareness, which is our prefrontal cortex, this part that processes everything and go, oh, wait a minute, do I really want to do that to myself? Do I really want to say that and hurt someone? Do I really want to say and hurt myself with the words that I'm saying?
Yeah, awesome.
If I was to say to people, if you could change one thing and all you were able to recognize and change is the places where you are constantly giving yourself a hard time, and shift that and not go immediately into self-judgment, but to reframe how you shift, change, transform inside of your life.
Yeah, I mean, this idea of having made a lot of mistakes and things like that, um, there's usually reasons for those decisions, you know? I mean, people think that they made a lot of bad decisions, and when I say people, I mean me. Um,
So
all right, made some bad decisions. But one thing I have learned is to put myself back in the shoes of that person that was making the decision and just go, okay, well, wait a minute, why? Oh, okay, there that I was doing what I thought was right for me.
that's it's interesting that you should bring that up, because that's a challenging place, because we can go back and look at things and go, wow, I would never have done that. And you're right, you would not do that from the place that you are now. But really where we are, and when we think that we're all the places that we think that we made mistakes, or we things went sideways, all we were doing in that moment was making choices based on the information that we had inside of ourselves and based on the information or a way of life that I understood. And so that's one of those places of not going back and judging, is to go, oh, wait a minute, yeah, you're right, I did that back then. I'm in a different place now, I am choosing to do this differently.
Yeah, and we can only start from where we're at.
Can only start from where we're at. I think one of the bigger pieces of where we are inside of humanity is that we have very long memories, and it's the memories that keep us stuck. It's the memories that hold us from change, because that's what we're doing, is we're reminding ourselves of the mistakes that we made over and over and over again.
Yeah,
And then recreating it without even realizing that we're recreating it.
exactly. Yeah. And then hence you get, back pain.
And a whole lot of other things, like illness and disease
Sure.
comes. from the body holding on to years of energy that it doesn't know how to release.
And is it possible to actually cure the disease by doing this so that it doesn't come back? Or
We have to be really careful with the FDA when we say stuff like that.
I know, I mean,
And it's not that I'm afraid of that. I'm just my thought form or my process says that the more we understand where the energy is and how we're holding it in our bodies, and to actually even recognize what it feels like inside of us, and then to give ourselves permission to start to let go. The more that we can do that, then the more the opportunity is for the body to actually, in its innate intelligence, to come back into alignment and, again, Pono, inside itself.
right.
Because the intelligence of our body will correct those kinds of mistakes. It's giving it the opportunity to.
It's a process.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. So, James, is there any particular message you'd like to leave the audience with? You had some excellent messages so far for everyone.
I would say be aware of your words. That would be
Words?
the words that you use, the words
Okay.
that you use to describe yourself, the words that you use to describe the world around you. And to one of the things that I do when I work with people is we talk about words, but we talk about how the energy of a word lands inside of us. And so as we start recognizing the words that we use, we start recognizing the energetic signature of the words and how it impacts our body. If you were to think about an angry thought, and if you were to tune into your body, you would notice that the body is really in this place of being contracted. And if you were to think about something that was more positive, you would notice that there's an opening, in some ways, almost like a heart opening in your body. And if we made everything so simple that all we did was we moved through our day noticing, wow, is my energy contracting or is my energy expanding? And recognize either what's happening in that moment or the thoughts that you're having in that moment, and then go, oh, wait a minute, let me shift that.
Yeah,
Because nobody wants to live in a contracted energy state, although we do most of the time.
exactly. And even if do that 2 or 3 times a day, it doesn't have to be
Oh my
constant,
gosh,
right?
sometimes for me it's 8 or 10 times a day or 12 times a day where I'm watching this and going, wait a minute, do you want to do that? Do you want to live in that? Do you want to live in that suffering state? Think about what that suffering state feels like in your body. Think about what it feels like when you're in this beautiful state or in this state of openness and awareness,
Mhm.
and making that choice that says, God, I'd rather be there than there.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, James, how do people get hold of you so they can have a session with you?
I would say the best thing to do is just to reach out. I share with everyone. So anybody that reaches out to me, I'll have a conversation with them for 30 minutes, just so that we can talk and we can figure out what's going on in your life, and maybe come up with different steps or ways to start to move through that. You can reach out to me. Just email me, james@jameskawainui.com. Seriously, it's just that's
Okay,
that easy.
that's easy.
Yeah, James KAWAINUI.com.
Okay,
Or you can go on my website, and there's a way to book a consult. I call them getting back on track. So this getting back on track, or a discovery call.
okay,
And through there, then we have a conversation, and then we find out what's going on, and for other people that I just wanted to reach out and say, gosh, I want you to come and talk to our organization, or I'd love to have you on my podcast. Same way, you know.
perfect.
I'm really in a place now where I believe that we need to gather together, and it's collaboration that's going to help shift the world. It's
Hmm.
us working together. We can't do this on our own anymore.
Hmm. Awesome. And when is your book coming out?
Good question. Somebody asked me that today. I am on the final edit now. So I have, it has 34 chapters. I am on chapter 24. So I'm pretty close. My goal is to have the book fully edited, and I'm going to read through it one more time before the end of the year so that it can actually go to the publisher and it can actually go through the edit process. And then we can start to look at really getting serious about sharing that with the world, because the book is laid out in a way where it explains Ho'oponopono, and then it will give people practical experiences and understandings about how to incorporate that into your daily life.
Mm, beautiful.
So, so it's book and workbook.
Practical.
There. Yeah. It, I wanted to share things with people that would actually help them, because I want my goal with this book is that when people get done, they have a way of moving through their lives and being able to look at whatever shows up inside of their life and be able to move through it in a clear and beautiful way.
Beautiful. James, thank you so much for being here. It's been absolutely awesome chatting with you.
Such a pleasure, and if anybody takes one little thing away from something that I talked about today, then I've done the work that I'm supposed to be doing.
Beautiful. Thank you again. And my name's Bev Young, and I help spiritual and heart-centered entrepreneurs get more credibility and visibility online with websites they love and that work. We'll see you next time. Bye, James.
Aloha, everyone.